We are talking from within, but not only. And this is why some of my friends and colleagues and people working with me, activists at the grassroots level, are asking me, what do you mean by this? Does it mean that we are completely out of the picture, that we cannot just contribute? I think no, of course. It's a two-way process. From within, it's really important, but questions, challenges, and debates around this, as we have today, this is something which is quite important. But from outside, it's important not only to listen to the people you like. All the voices are important, because at the end, it's always the same. We need a dialogue, and a dialogue is people having different views. We don't want an interactive monologue with people thinking what you think. And this is, once again, very often the perception that I can have in the West is really that we invite the people that we like, and we like their discourse, trying to, which is not always bad, but it's bad if it's only these people who are invited and we are not opening up the discussion. And also just to sit and to listen to different Muslim voices, that's fine. This was very great and important for me when I traveled around the world and even in Europe to listen to some differences between Buddhists, between Jews, between Christians, because you understand that it's complex, that you are not speaking to Christianity, you are speaking to Christians. You are not speaking with Judaism, we are speaking with Jews, and we are not speaking to Buddhism, but with Buddhists. And the Dalai Lama is not providing us with the Chinese version of Buddhism, as you know. So this is an important point. And the last point, which is also patience, it's important. We can come here and have a discourse which can please you, but at the end of the day, to please you is not the point. It's really a step-by-step thing that it's pedagogy that we need. So sometimes some people are it's not in the name of pedagogy that we have to do nothing, but it's not in the name of, progressive voices that we should say everything at the same time without being heard by the people. There are steps. And when someone is not educated in the right way, what you can say could be counterproductive, because you need first to go through an educative process before being heard at that level. So this is a dialectical process between the way you talk and from where you are heard. And sometimes we forget this. It's as if, because we think that we are right, we talk whatever the people are hearing or are listening to, and the way they are hearing or listening to. So these are some points, and they are obvious points, but sometimes we have to remind ourselves it's very obvious realities, because by forgetting them, we are lost in the debate. What are the main problems that we are facing within the Muslim majority countries and the Muslim communities in the West? In fact, I would summarize this by two concepts and try to explain what I mean. We are facing two main problems. The first one is reduction, the second one is projection. What do I mean by this? I mean that for the Muslims, and for me as a believer, once again, this is an important point as well. For me as a believer, the Quran is the very word of God. And some of the people around me think that the only way for the Muslims to be modern or to live with their time is just to challenge this by saying, if you believe this, there is no way you are going to be conservative and backward. And my answer to this is the status of the Quran is not the problem. It's the mind of the readers which is the problem. Because you can read a book written by a human being and read it with a dogmatic mind. This was done by Marxists and communists and others, even capitalists, by thinking that what they are reading is like the Bible. So you can have a dogmatic mind with a book. The problem is not the book, it's the way you read it. So the problem with the Quran is not the Quran per se and its status, because for 99.999% of the Muslims, the Quran is the very word of God. The problem is not the text, is which attitude, mindset is reading the text and putting it into context, yes and no. So here, for me, the reduction is this one, is that some people are saying, yes, the Quran is the very word of God, but they forget that this book was revealed during 23 years in a specific historical context. Yes, they are principles that are immutable. If you look at the Muslims today, men and women, they pray as the Muslims were praying. They fast as the Muslims were fasting. So we have principles that are immutable. Our articles, 6 pillars of faith are the same. It's not changing. The fact that we believe in one God, the fact that we believe in the Prophet, this is not changing. But there is a very huge area, what is called al-mu'amalat, social affairs, where the implementation is adapted to the context. And there is a difference between the principles and the models. So you have a principles of justice in a very specific context. Its implementation will take into account the context within which you live in order to be faithful to the principle by changing the historical model. So sometimes you have to evolve to remain faithful. And this is what I call no faithfulness without evolution. For the people who are reading the text in a reductive way, the text is the text and nothing can be contextualized, and we just have to take the text literally. I'm not using all this business of moderate Muslim fundamentalists and this binary vision where the people think that because they are quoting 2 dimensions, they have a complex mind, which is the first attitude of a simplistic perception of the other, is to think that they are the good and the bad. Here we are dealing with literalism and traditionalism, that some are following in the footsteps of some tradition and schools, and they are reducing the Quran to some interpretations of the past. And some others, what we call today the Salafi, by the way, in the Shia and the Sunni tradition, it's the same, taking the text and reducing the text to the literal meaning of it without contextualizing it, and putting all the verses at the same level. And when they quote, they think that God is speaking, which is problematic, because they don't know that quoting is interpreting, or they don't get it, this is not it. The problem is not the text that they are quoting. The problem is the mind which is quoting the text. And then this is where we have a very important intra-community dialogue. On the women issues, this reductive approach is a catastrophe. Why? Because you have some text that you don't put into context. You don't understand that there is one verse which was revealed at this specific moment, and you have to understand that you have other texts coming afterward. So the text which is coming afterward should be understood as a divine pedagogy to get you to the objective, to help you to get the objective. So if you don't have the process, the historical process and the pedagogy, we don't get the meaning. So you take one verse, you quote it and say, okay, I can't do this because it's quoted. For example, if you don't understand, there is a text, and this is a sensitive text about beating women. No one can deny that it's in the Quran. Wadribuhunna, some try to interpret adribuhunna in a way which is, it's not really to beat, while in fact the sabab al-nuzul here, quoted by everyone, is a woman coming to the Prophet saying, I was beaten by my husband. And the first reaction of the Prophet said, so beat him back. This was his answer. And then the verse was revealed. So how come it's coming when she was saying, I was beaten, and then you change the meaning of the Quran, that it's not consistent. So وَضْرِبُهُنَّ means darb, means beating. But now you have to put things into the context, the historical thing, in which way in the verse is coming at the third place, in the revelation it's coming at a specific moment, and other verses came afterward. And the model of the Muslims is the Prophet who never beat a woman. So how come you want to follow in the footsteps of the Prophet, and on this you forget that he never did it? So it's your model sometimes and not always, and especially with women.